Stop. Before you walk into another room trying to look chill and harmless, ask yourself this. If public space didn't matter, why do some people walk into a room and instantly gain respect while others get ignored, talked over, or quietly laughed at? Why does one mistake in public haunt your reputation for years while your private goodness barely registers? Why can one meltdown, one drunk rant, one messy overshare permanently lower how people see you, even if you're nothing like that most of the time? You already feel it. Public is a stage, a test, a battlefield, and most people fail it without even knowing the rules. They think the world is watching what they meant. In reality, it's judging what they do, what they show, what slips when they're emotional, drunk, angry, or desperate. Here's the dangerous truth. Power is not decided in private. It's decided in public, in how you carry yourself where you can be seen, judged, recorded, and remembered. Machiavelli understood this long before cameras, social media, and screenshots. He watched how crowds formed opinions based on shadows and rumors, and he wrote a line that should be tattooed on anyone who cares about power, respect, or reputation. Men in general judge more with the eye than with the hand, because everyone can see, but few can feel. That's the core of this video. People don't feel your soul in public. They see your image. They hear the way you talk. They notice who you're chasing, who you're insulting, how you react when you're triggered. They see your posture when someone embarrasses you. They see your eyes when someone challenges you. They don't feel your intentions. They judge your display. And here's where it gets dark. One stupid public move can erase months of quiet work. One breakdown at a party can overshadow 10 years of discipline. This video is not about etiquette. This is a Machiavellian list. We're going to talk about 9 things you should never do in public if you care about power, respect, and long-term leverage. Things that silently lower your value. Things that make people feel they can step over you. Things that destroy your mystique, your negotiation power, your perceived stability. You don't need to become paranoid, but you do need to become aware of the arena you live in. Because whether you like it or not, every room you walk into is a court. People are watching. People are weighing. People are deciding where to place you in their invisible hierarchy. And you've probably been giving them reasons to put you low. So let's start with the first thing you should never do in public if you want respect instead of regret. The first thing, never publicly beg for attention, validation, or approval. You've seen this. The guy making everything a performance, getting louder and louder, forcing jokes, forcing reactions. Every 5 minutes. The friend who overshares the most painful parts of their life to a table of people who haven't earned that level of access, just to feel seen for a second. In reality, it signals one thing. This person has no internal anchor. They need the room to tell them who they are. Machiavelli warned about this kind of dependence in a colder context, but it applies perfectly here. He basically said, if your safety and success are built on things outside your control, fortune, other people, external forces, you are weak. He wrote, men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. They don't look that deep. They see someone who needs the crowd. And when the crowd senses you need it, they quietly stop respecting you. People might like you more for a while. They might enjoy the show. They might feel powerful around you, but they will not respect you. There's a difference between honest vulnerability and public emotional striptease. Vulnerability is sharing something real with someone who has earned your trust. Public stripping is dumping your deepest wounds on whoever happens to be there that night, hoping someone will hold them. The Machiavellian fix isn't to become a stone. It's to separate what belongs to the stage and what belongs to the inner circle. Public is not where you go to be patched up. Public is where you test how well you patched yourself. So you start catching yourself every 5 minutes, kill it. That urge to oversell your achievements so people will think you're impressive? Kill it. That urge to turn every conversation into, please validate me? Kill it. Instead, you practice doing the opposite. You talk less about yourself and let others ask. You don't announce your insecurities, you work on them in private. You don't try to prove you belong in the room, you behave like you already do. Second thing you should never do in public, never lose control of your emotions in a way that makes you look unstable. Let's be clear, having emotions is human. You're allowed to be angry, hurt, scared, frustrated. This is not about becoming a robot. This is about understanding the cost of public meltdowns in a world that equates stability with power. You've seen people rage in public, shouting at a waiter, exploding at a partner in front of everyone, throwing things, crying uncontrollably in the middle of a professional setting. Maybe you've done it. In that moment, do they look powerful? No, they look exposed. Machiavelli, again, wasn't talking about bars and restaurants, but he was obsessed with how people look under pressure. One of his coldest lessons is that people don't judge you by your intentions, but by your results, especially when things are hard. In public, the result of your emotional loss of control is simple. You look like someone who cannot hold themselves, someone who can be provoked, baited, pushed off center. And in any hierarchy, social, romantic, professional, the person who can be easily triggered is always lower than the one who can stay calm. Think about the last argument you saw in public. Maybe a couple fighting on the street. One person yelling, gesturing wildly, crying, the other standing still, voice low, maybe even too cold. Who did you, as a stranger, instinctively see as more powerful in that moment? Probably not the one falling apart. That's human, and it's brutal. So what do you do with your emotions? You can be angry and still say, "We'll talk about this later." You can be hurt and still leave instead of begging or exploding. You can be disrespected and still respond with a short sentence instead of a scene. That doesn't mean you swallow everything. It means you move the conversation off the stage and into a private room where your reaction doesn't become entertainment, gossip, or ammunition. If someone deliberately tries to provoke you in public, mocking you, baiting you, poking at your sore spots, you have two options. You rise to it and perform exactly what they wanted, or you give them nothing. A look, a small smile, a calm, "We're not doing this here," and you remove yourself. One of the darkest skills you can develop is this: making it very hard for people to read what gets to you. That mystery is not fake, it's protection. If the wrong people know what breaks you, they will break you in front of everyone. We live in a time where self-deprecation is a social currency. People trash themselves for laughs. It's all jokes, but watch the long-term effect. People start believing you. Machiavelli would see this as suicidal. For him, a leader had one job in public: build a reputation that commands weight. Not perfection, not fake holiness, but a consistent sense that this person is something. Translated to your life, in public, you don't casually murder your own value. You don't give people scripts like, "I'm useless, I'm a clown, I'm the failure of the group," to attach to your name. Because trust me, they will attach it. They'll laugh with you and then quietly put you in the "less serious" category in their head. You think you're disarming them. That's not power. That's preemptive self-harm, so other people don't have to bloody their hands. You're doing their job for them. There's a difference between having a sense of humor about yourself and publicly sabotaging your image. Sense of humor, laughing at a clumsy moment, a small flaw, a harmless habit. Self-sabotage, turning your failures into your personality, turning your wounds into a brand, turning your lack of self-respect into a meme. Every time you publicly belittle yourself, you are training people to see you as less. And once they lock that frame in, good luck being taken seriously when it actually matters. When you need support, when you make a request, when you assert a boundary. You can still be funny. You can still be playful. You just stop making the punchline your worth. Instead, you direct the humor at situations, not your core. It's a small shift in words, but a massive shift in how people file you in their mental hierarchy. At this point, you've already seen 3 of the 9 things you should never do in public if you care about power. Don't publicly beg for attention. Don't publicly lose control. Don't publicly destroy your own image for laughs. Each one might seem small in the moment, but over time they build a reputation that is very hard to escape. And reputation, in Machiavelli's eyes, is not decoration, it's destiny. Once people have decided who you are in public, everything you do is filtered through that lens. In the next parts, we're going deeper. We'll talk about the public mistakes that quietly ruin your leverage, arguing with fools in front of an audience, exposing private loyalties in public, showing too much thirst for status, making a scene over small things, being openly disloyal to your own allies, and more. You don't need the whole world to like you. You do need the right people to think twice before disrespecting you. And that starts with what you refuse to do where everyone can see you. For now, remember this: public space is not neutral. It's a test you're already taking, every day, every room, every screen. Because long after you forget that night, that argument, that joke, that breakdown, someone else will remember. And in their mind, that might be the only version of you that ever existed. You know what's wild? Once you start seeing how public space actually works, you can't unsee it. You walk into a cafe, a party, an office, and you instantly notice it. The guy drowning in jokes at his own expense. The girl oversharing to people who don't care. The couple fighting like the world is their therapist. You can almost see their stock dropping in real time. In part 1, you saw the first 3 things you should never do in public if you care about power: begging for attention, losing emotional control, and turning your self-respect into a punchline. Now we're going deeper, into the moves that seem normal but quietly make people hate you, doubt you, or rank you lower every time you repeat them. Because here's the truth: most people don't lose respect in one big scandal. They lose it drip by drip, joke by joke, scene by scene, until one day everyone likes them, but nobody takes them seriously. The 4th thing you should never do in public: never humiliate someone weaker than you just to look strong. You've seen this, and it always leaves a bad taste. The guy who bullies the waiter to impress his friends. The manager who dresses down an employee in front of the whole office. The friend who exposes everyone's secrets when they're in a group. For a few seconds, they might look powerful, loud, dominant, in control. But watch the faces around them. People might laugh nervously. They might stay quiet. They might even join in. Machiavelli warned rulers about this centuries ago. Yes, he talked about fear, but he drew a sharp line between fear and hatred. Fear can coexist with respect. Hatred waits for your weakest moment. Humiliating people in public does exactly that. It makes you hated by the one you're crushing and despised by the ones watching. Even if they still obey you, something in them starts rooting for your fall. And nothing is more dangerous long-term than being secretly rooted against. Comment: I used to think public roasting made me look confident. So in public, you make a new rule. You do not punch down for sport. You don't embarrass service staff to show you're important. You don't expose your friends' secrets for laughs. You don't drag your partner in front of other people to win points. You can be sharp, you can call things out, you can defend yourself, but you never use the room as a weapon unless you're prepared for that room to quietly turn on you. The 5th thing you should never do in public: never perform disloyalty to your own circle. Pay attention next time you're with new people and someone starts trashing their best friend, their partner, their family, their team in front of strangers. It might sound like bonding. Flip that to your life. People judge you not only by who you keep around, but by how you treat them when they're not around. Why would anyone high value trust you after that? This doesn't mean you fake perfection. It means you choose where you talk about problems. You talk honestly, deeply, critically about people you love, in private, in safe spaces, with someone who has earned that role. You do not turn their flaws into content for a circle that doesn't care about fixing anything. In public, you can say, "We're working through some stuff," and keep it at that. You're not lying. You're protecting something sacred. The sense that your loyalty isn't a mask you rip off when the audience changes. Because here's the Machiavellian reality. If your loyalty looks cheap, so do you. The sixth thing you should never do in public: never argue at length with fools. You know this one. You've seen someone going back and forth with a loud, illogical person in front of everyone, at a party, at work, online. The more they argue, the more they look like they're on the same level. The fool doesn't lose anything. They enjoy the chaos. The serious one loses mystique every time they explain themselves to someone who clearly isn't listening. They track energy. One person looks wild. The other looks dragged. There's a reason powerful people rarely argue publicly. They might clarify once, twice. After that, they either disengage or move the conversation to a controlled space. Not because they're scared, but because they understand how easy it is to look small while trying to prove you're big. If you've read Machiavelli, you know he cared less about being right and more about surviving the long game. He warned over and over that people judge results, not idealistic battles. And he understood something we forget. Some conflicts can't be won. It's just a choice between losing energy or losing face. So in public, you make another quiet rule. You don't debate people who clearly want chaos, not clarity. You don't try to change the mind of someone who is performing, not listening. You don't stay in a shouting match just to avoid looking weak for walking away. You say your piece once, sharply. If they keep twisting, mocking, or yelling, you exit. Not with a tantrum, but with a simple, "We're not going anywhere with this." People watching will remember two things. The fool was loud. You were in control. That's all you need. Comment: fighting a fool in public is like wrestling in mud. The seventh thing you should never do in public: never act like the future doesn't exist. This is subtle but lethal. It shows up when you treat every public moment like it has no consequences. You get wasted in front of people who will one day decide your promotion. You leak secrets for clout in front of people who will one day test your discretion. You stir drama for entertainment in front of people who will one day decide who to trust with real responsibility. In the moment, it feels like nothing, just vibes, just fun. But Machiavelli saw a pattern in human nature. People only panic when the storm hits. Almost nobody respects the storm when the sky is still blue. Good weather? Everyone's laughing, the drinks are flowing, the group chat is alive, the party's loud, your job feels secure, your reputation seems fine. Storm? The video resurfaces. The message gets forwarded. The wrong person repeats what you said. The person you mocked ends up your manager. The private moment wasn't private. People remember, especially the things that give them leverage. This isn't about being paranoid. It's about being strategic. You don't have to live like a saint. You just stop doing in public what you'd be terrified to see replayed when life gets serious. If the answer is a hard no, that's your cue. Pull back. You're not killing fun. You're killing recklessness. There's a difference. Fun can be wild, spontaneous, imperfect. Recklessness is when you spend your future reputation to buy 5 minutes of being the loudest one in the room. By now, you've seen the deeper pattern behind all of this. Every "never do this in public" has one thing in common. It gives away power. It hands people a version of you that is easy to disrespect, easy to manipulate, easy to dismiss. Begging for attention shows them you're hungry. Meltdowns show them you're fragile. Self-sabotaging jokes show them you don't value yourself. Public humiliation shows them you're cruel, not strong. Public disloyalty shows them your loyalty is a prop. Public arguments with fools show them you can be dragged. Public recklessness shows them you don't think beyond tonight. This is why Machiavelli obsessed over appearances. Not because he was fake, but because he understands something most people still don't. You do not control how people feel about you. You only control what you show them, and what you refuse to show. So as you step into the last part, here's the shift. You stop seeing public as something random that just happens to you. You start seeing it as a weapon you either wield or get cut by. In the final part, we'll go into the last of the 9 things you should never do in public, and more important, what to do instead if you want to move through any room with quiet, unnerving power. We'll talk about how to show status without screaming it, how to protect your alliances in front of enemies, and how to leave a place with more respect than you had when you entered, just by choosing what to hide and what to reveal. Because everyday public life is not neutral, it's your permanent record. And after tonight, you won't walk into a room the same way again. By now, you've probably replayed a few memories you wish you could delete. The night you overshared to people who didn't earn it. The time you snapped in public and made a scene. The joke where you turned yourself into the clown just to get a laugh. It's uncomfortable, isn't it? Realizing that there's a version of you walking around in other people's minds that you didn't choose. A drunk version, a desperate version, a loud, insecure version. Thinking about changing your life, this last part is about something simple and ruthless. Making sure the version of you that survives in public is one you can live with. One that commands respect, not pity. Curiosity, not contempt. We've already gone through 7 things you should never do in public if you care about power. Begging for attention, losing control, turning your self-worth into a punchline, humiliating weaker people, displaying disloyalty to your own circle, arguing with fools, and acting like the future doesn't exist. Now we finish it. The last 2 mistakes, the ones that quietly kill your status even if you do everything else right. The 8th thing you should never do in public, never show open desperation for status or proximity to power. You've seen this. The person at an event who orbits the most important person in the room like a satellite, laughing too loud at their jokes, forcing their way into every photo, name-dropping every 5 seconds. I was just talking to this CEO. I was at dinner with this big influencer. I'm actually super close with insert high-status person here. On the surface, it looks like ambition, networking. Underneath, everyone reads the same thing. You're announcing you don't believe you're important on your own. High-status people sense it instantly. The more you chase them, the less they value you. The more you show that being near them is oxygen for you, the more they treat you like air, everywhere, easily taken for granted. Machiavelli understood this dynamic on a royal scale. When he talked about love and fear, he wasn't just talking about violence, he was talking about dependence. In public, your desperation for status is you begging to be loved by power, to be seen, accepted, included. It doesn't create love, it creates boredom, and eventually contempt. The people you're chasing don't fear losing you. They see you as permanent, cheap, replaceable. Think about 2 people at the same event. One is in every conversation, shaking every hand, laughing at everything, dropping every name he can. He looks busy, important, social. The other has a few focused conversations, isn't always in the center, doesn't rush to greet people who ignore him, doesn't push himself into circles where the energy is wrong. He looks calm, almost indifferent. Who do you instinctively respect more? The one trying to be seen by everyone, or the one who seems already anchored, already chosen by himself? Desperation for status leaks in tiny behaviors. You change your opinions in front of every powerful person. You publicly abandon your old friends to stand closer to someone above you. You overlaugh, overpraise, overagree when someone has followers, money, or influence. You post every big connection online like it's a trophy. To the crowd, you're not becoming high status. You're showing them what you worship. And if you worship someone else's power too visibly, you're announcing that you don't believe in your own. The Machiavellian move is not to pretend you don't care about power. It's to stop begging for it in the open. You can talk to powerful people without acting like a fan. You can admire someone without turning them into your god. You can be grateful for access without performing gratitude like a servant. In public, try this. You don't rush. Let them notice you. You don't force conversation. If it flows, good. If not, you move on. You don't sell your dignity for a selfie. If a real connection forms, the photo will happen naturally later, or it won't, and you'll still be fine. You want a dark little secret? Truly powerful people are more intrigued by the one person in the room who isn't performing for them. Everyone else feels like a mirror. You feel like a mystery. The ninth thing you should never do in public: never publicly betray your own standards just to feel safe for a moment. This one is quieter, but it's deadly. It looks like this. You say, "I don't tolerate disrespect," and then let your partner talk to you like trash in front of everyone. You say, "Loyalty is everything to me," and then gossip about your closest friend to people you barely know. You say, "I'm done with drinking to the point I embarrass myself," and then you're on a table again 2 weeks later in front of the same crowd. You say, "I don't chase people," and then everyone watches you calling, texting, begging one person the minute they pull away. Every time your public behavior contradicts your declared standards, something important breaks, not just in other people's minds, but in your own. Out there, people learn a simple formula. What you say is marketing. What you do is the truth. Machiavellian knew this game so well that he split it into 2 layers. There's what you really are, and there's what you must appear to be. Read that carefully. He's saying, in the eyes of the public, your appearance is reality. If you publicly preach strength and then publicly collapse at the slightest sign of rejection, you don't appear strong. You appear confused. If you publicly preach integrity and then publicly join in dirty moves just this once, you don't appear flexible. You appear hollow. If you publicly preach independence and then publicly orbit someone like they're your son, you don't appear loving. You appear lost. This doesn't mean you never mess up. It means that when you do, you clock it, you clean it up, and you tighten the gap between who you say you are and what people actually see. Because here's the other side of that Machiavellian line. If it's very necessary to appear to have those good qualities, then every time you sabotage your own appearance in public, you're committing reputation suicide. Most people are not analysts. They'll think, they said they were done, then they weren't. This is why public is so dangerous. It's not accurate, it's simplified, but those simplifications still decide how people treat you, doubt you, test you, or trust you. So ask yourself a vicious question. If someone only ever saw me in public, hear my jokes, see my reactions, watch my stories, see me at parties, at work, with friends, what would they think my standards really are? Not what I post as quotes, not what I say I believe. What do my patterns in front of people scream? Do they scream, "I won't be disrespected"? Or do they scream, "I break that rule anytime I feel lonely"? Do they scream, "I protect the people I love"? Or do they scream, "I'll throw you under the bus if the audience is right"? Or do they scream, "I chase as soon as my ego feels threatened"? This is where the 9 things come together. You're not just avoiding embarrassment. You're building a public mythology around yourself, a story people tell in their heads when they see your name. One story gets you liked and quietly disrespected. The other might not make you everyone's favorite, but it makes you hard to play with. So where do you go from here? You don't become paranoid. You become intentional. You start treating every public space, every group chat, every party, every meeting, every comment section as a place where your future self might get judged. Not in a suffocating way, in a strategic way. You don't have to be perfect. Machiavelli never asked for perfection. He asked for control, awareness, strategy. He's basically telling you the world is mostly the vulgar crowd, and they judge you by what they see. You can cry about that, or you can use it. From now on, public is where you display your standards, not where you negotiate them. You can fall apart, in private, with people who earned the right to see you weak. You can overthink, in your room, in your journal, in therapy, in prayer. You can be messy, with the inner circle that knows your heart and won't use it against you. But in public, you move slower. You speak cleaner. You joke without stabbing yourself. You refuse to play with status like it's your oxygen. You defend people below you instead of humiliating them. You cut off leaks of loyalty instead of performing betrayal. You walk away from fools instead of drowning with them. You remember tomorrow exists, even when tonight feels like it doesn't. And you hold your own standards in front of witnesses, especially when it would be easier not to. Because that's when your legend is being written, not when you're alone, not when you're daydreaming. When the room is watching and you have the perfect excuse to be weak, and you aren't. So here's your choice now, and there's no soft way to put it. You can keep pretending public doesn't matter. Keep bleeding out pieces of your self-respect in front of anyone with eyes. Keep telling yourself it's not that deep, while your reputation slowly turns you into a joke, a pet, a background character in other people's stories. Or you can decide that from this point on, the version of you that shows up in public will be one the future you is proud to inherit. You won't always be liked. Let them. They don't have to live with your reputation. You do. If you're done giving the crowd free tickets to your humiliation, tap like. If you're ready to move through every room like someone who knows exactly what not to do in public and who's building power quietly with every interaction, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss what comes next. Drop a comment with "No more public weakness" if you're not just listening, you're committing. To stop begging, stop leaking, stop performing your own downfall in front of people who don't even care. And send this to that one friend who keeps turning their pain into a show, who keeps letting public moments define them at their lowest, who has no idea how expensive each little "it's not that deep" really is. Because this isn't self-help. This is strategy. This is war. And from today on, you're not the spectacle people point at when they're bored. You're the one they lower their voice around. Because they finally understand you're not playing the same public game anymore.